Triple H has called out Batista face to face. The Shield is reuniting one last time, and Ronda Rousey has turned heel. I instantly had to do a video about this because, the gesture of this Raw, it wasn't so much the matches. Most of the matches, pretty much all the matches, were matches that we've seen week after week. The same repeated type matches that we see all the time. The gesture of tonight that, in my opinion, made Raw even decent was just the storytelling in terms of the big feuds. But as it pertains to the matches that was going on, it wasn't much interest. And then the only match that was gonna get some interest had some interference in it. So, um, man, you got three big things that happened tonight. So, let's just go about it here. So first, you had Triple H. First of all, you had Roman come out, and it seemed as if when he called Seth out, he was going to talk to him about how the way how he was saying it, like there's one man who's been in the way, and that man is my brother Seth Rollins. It kind of made it seem like he was going to talk to Seth like, hey, you know, I'm happy at the fact that you won the Royal Rumble and everything, but the truth be told, you would have never been in this spot had I not relinquished my title. Like, you're taking in my spot. You're fighting for something I never lost. And that's kind of where it seemed like it was going to go. That's the way they had Seth interpreted. But the whole point of him doing it was so that, um, Dean Ambrose to kind of tease, to have Dean Ambrose come out. You kind of knew it was going to happen just because of this fraction that just has made absolutely no sense with Baron Corbin, Drew McIntyre, and Bobby Lashley. So you kind of knew this was going to happen, especially how they were building Raw. You kind of knew this was going to happen. You kind of knew Dean was going to, do the fist bump with him and join forces with them at the towards the end. But that's how we started off. They tried to convince Dean to join them, and before he could even say anything on the mic, he gets hit by a guitar in the back by Elias, and then from there he doesn't say anything when they come to back. Um, First, Roman talks to him, and he's like, I got to focus on this match. He's like not really trying to give Roman an answer or anything, just kind of walking, shoving it off, and they even tried to get him to join with them after he got hit with the guitar, but he just left and went straight backstage. And Roman tried to talk to him, and he didn't want to talk to Roman. And Seth tried to talk to him, and it was the same way. It's like you want to see the Shield reunite, well, you want to see the Shield back together, well, you know, I got to do this on my own. Like I got to do this match on my own. And you knew Dean was gonna lose because it's been well known that Dean is not re-signed with WWE. But it's something strange about this whole thing. I mean, when was the last time you've heard commentators mention someone not re-signing or someone leaving WWE? Like I don't know. I'm not saying a lot of people think that this is a work, that Dean isn't actually leaving, and then in a press conference when someone asks Roman what did he think about Dean leaving WWE? He said, I'll take care of that. So it just makes me question if this, I'm not saying it is a work, but it just seems suspicious because they normally never, first of all, they mentioned him leaving way too early. It was like as soon as not long after he announced he was leaving. And then on top of that, the commentators are talking about it. And normally you'll never hear commentators mention about someone leaving WWE. The only ever time that comes to mind was when CM Punk contract was going out, but I'm not even going to touch on that because some people are still into CM Punk. I'm not going to touch on that, but just in relation, that's the only time, and at that time when that happened, it was a work. But in this case here, I don't think it's a work. I just find it, if it is a work, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think it's a work. I just find it kind of strange that not only did they mention it early and call him out of his real name, but also, even a commentary mentioned it. And that's something that normally doesn't happen. So, that was the gesture with that whole thing. Uh, and I knew that the moment Baron Corbin and Drew McIntyre, because they had recently beat Finn and Kurt Angle and Braun Strowman. I really don't know why this feud is still going on. It's pretty much pointless, but they beat them in a six-man tag match, and then they were going to go triple team on Seth and Roman, and then Dean, he was just about to walk out and leave when they came in the ring after he lost to Elias. Because by this point, when this happened, Dean had just lost to Elias, and they came out, still wanting answers from Dean because Dean still wasn't giving them an answer, and he just walked off. It was looked like he was about to leave uh, from the audience area, and now all of a sudden, Drew comes out, Bobby comes out, and Corbin comes out and talks about how he's just destroyed the show a long time ago and all that. And they come in the ring like they're about to triple team Roman and Seth. And then Dean looks like he just can't take watching it anymore, so he just runs into the ring to help him. And the next thing you know, they do their shield bump. So, so that's first off. We've seen a lot of Shield uh, reunions, but if this is legit, like if Dean is really leaving as he stated, and I'm not doubting him leaving because I think he really is leaving, and I don't think that he's going to immediately go to another wrestling promotion. He might just be done. Like he might just be done with professional wrestling in general. Um, if that is the case, then you know this would be the final chapter of Shield reunions. We've seen it happen so many times from the time that they were originally together to the time that they broke up the first time to their second breakup. There's no question that the Shield is one of the most dominant forces in the history of WWE. They first burst on the scene, the Survivor Series in 2012, took out everybody in their path, had some great rivalries, great six-man tag matches with the likes of Ryback, with the likes of John Cena, Sheamus, Randy Orton, and Big Show. They beat Sheamus, Randy Orton, and Big Show in their very first WrestleMania matchup. Um, Won the tag team titles instantly on the spot. Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins winning the titles from Team Hell No at the time, and 2013 at Extreme Rules. Uh, Dean Ambrose won the United States title from Kobe Kingston that same year. They all held some gold. Held the titles for quite a bit. Was undefeated for about 6 months as a team before they suffered their first loss on SmackDown to Randy Orton, Kane, and Daniel Bryan. One of the best six-man tag team matches I've ever seen. They had some classic six-man tag matches also with Team Hell No and The Undertaker on Raw. The one time that happened. Um, Also, even at TLC with Team Hell No and Ryback, that was a good six-man tag as well. Um, just a really dominant faction, that was put together, of course. It was put together, and you would have thought that Dean was actually the leader when they very first formed because Dean was always doing all the talking. He would start off all the promos, and then Seth would talk a lot second, and then Roman would be the last person talking. At that time, Roman wasn't talking as much on the mic as he is now. It was morally always Dean who would start everything off, and then Seth would continue it, and then Roman would be like the last guy to just say and believe in the Shield. He just seemed like the evil guy that really didn't say. He was just seemed like a man with a few words is what he seemed like. So. Um, Roman, so they had they like initially started, like I said, 2012, stayed together until the summer 2014. First, Seth turned on them, then they had rivals with each other, etc. had a couple of reunions. The first reunion during their breakup was actually at Payback 2015 when they triple power bombed Randy through a table, and it was actually a fatal four-way match. Um, and so they had a small Shield reunion when that match happened. Also, we seen it at Survivor Series of 2016 when Ambrose was on SmackDown and Roman and Seth were on Raw, and it's just been a lot of them because I'm not even going to get into the Roman and Seth reunions and the Seth and Dean reunions. It's just been a lot of them. But the bottom line is that out of all the reunions we've seen, which the most memorable ones to me was the one at Payback when they power bombed Randy Orton through a table. The one at Survivor Series where they power bombed AJ Styles because at the time Dean Ambrose was feuding with AJ Styles, so he had a huge beef with him. To the time that they reformed officially in 2017 on Raw to stop the Miz and Sheamus and Cesaro. Um, it's just like even to their reformation again last year, around the time that Roman had just won the WWE Championship to help him out to prevent Braun Strowman from cashing in on him. So it's like this is the final time. So I would say, if it really is the final time, it's the final time. Um, and it is what it is. I'm not really gonna say much about it. There's no question that with their feuds that they've had as a group, as a unit, that they were and always will be one of the most dominant factions of WWE. Um, they will remain in the record books. They had some very classic matches as a team, even last year, getting back together in 2017. More so last year, getting back together. Some really classic. Even their match with the New Day was a pretty good match at Survivor Series 2017. Like they've had some really great matches. The Evolution matches they had with them, just some really uh, who can ever forget the Wyatt family matches they had with the Wyatts? That was a really classic feud right there. Even though unfortunately their only time beating the Wyatts was at main event, they never beat them on like paper. They never beat them on like Raw or SmackDown. They only beat them at like main event. But that was a classic feud. So it'll definitely always be remembered. Like I said, this is Dean really leaving. You know, it's gonna be a different aspect, but that just goes to show you can't rely too much on nostalgia to the current product. It was good at that time, and it's good to bring it back every once in a while. But now, this is it. So there you go with that. That happened. The reuniting of the Shield for one last time. Then you have Triple H calling out Batista. Really interesting here because you could tell that Triple H they had him really speaking from the heart. Saying that speaking and saying Ric Flair's real name, which is Richard. Um, and he mentioned how just last year how Ric Flair was in the hospital and he was nearly in his deathbed. Should even have been here this year, and how Batista hurt him and stuff like that at his age. A man who wasn't even supposed to be here. He mentioned his son. He mentioned how he attended all Ric Flair. He mentioned how he went to Ric Flair's weddings, but of course he couldn't go to all of them because Ric's been married multiple times. He's had several marriages. He mentioned how he was there for Ric during the hard times. Ric was there for him during the hard times for him. You know, basically looked up to Ric. Ric was like a best friend to him. He said all these things about Ric, all these emotional type things about Ric Flair, with them being together all the years they've been together. And then said that to say how Batista, what is it that, you know, he wants, and he mentioned about his injury at Crown Jewel, and he thought it wasn't going to be enough then, and you know, face being like a man, come face to face with me, you know, just so many things he was saying in this promo here, and it's just I don't know. The weird thing for me is that it's always crazy when they have like certain guys switch roles like that. Like when the Shield originally broke up, you would have thought Dean would have been the one to turn on them, not Seth. Seth turn on them was very unexpected. I think most people probably thought Dean would have done it back then. It would have been Dean. Um, I wouldn't have seen Roman doing it. I don't know why. Even though he's the bigger guy of the three, the powerhouse, but I wouldn't have really seen him being the one. I always thought it would have been Dean at that time, but it was Roman. It was Seth. Same for this case. Like when you have a heel and babyface switch roles, especially when Triple H is so effective as a heel, and looking at it now, and it's like Batista's the heel, and Triple H is the babyface, quote unquote. It's just weird because you know I don't know. It's just weird. Like you're used to, but when it was the other way around, Batista was babyface and Triple H was the heel because he's played the role for so long. And I'm not saying he can't play good as a babyface, but it's just like same thing with Randy Orton when he's feuding with him. It's just like when he's the babyface, it just seems different. It seems really awkward. Um, but you can really see the intention in this story here, and I think that it's going to escalate really quickly. You could see the tension. Um, Triple H was speaking from the heart in this promo here. Calling Batista face more like a man. Even mentioned how Batista, all he does is quit, which I mean he does. I mean, it's nothing to lie about. That's pretty much what he does. All he does is quit. I mean, this man quit the first time he was in WWE 2010, quit again when he came back to WWE for literally the same reason why he quit the first time, basically, because of creative. Well, that's the reason why a lot of people are leaving, but like, he quit 2 times in a row, and then people start making jokes about, him quitting, because that's what he's been known for doing, coming and quitting. But, you know, he mentioned that, and like I said, he brought up the fact that he wants Batista to come on Raw, face him like a man, face to face. You want me. He basically said, you want my attention. You have my attention now. Like you got my attention. You have my attention now. Once you see me face to face, you got my attention. You wanted me to get your attention. You got my attention. Batista mentioned how on Twitter he wasn't sorry that he didn't go to Philadelphia. You know, he didn't want to go to Philadelphia with those particular fans or anything. He didn't feel sorry about it. Um, mentioned about having Triple H's attention more and stuff like that. Glad I got your attention. It's just really heated up. You could really see the heat and the tension and the anger in this storyline. You could definitely tell that this had a lot of Triple H written all over it. I don't know what it is. Triple H always manages to put himself into like a WrestleMania match every single year, and it's just crazy because the man is pushing 50. He just always manages to put himself in a WrestleMania match every year. It is like at this point, and he does it so effectively, like with the storytelling. Now with Seth, it kind of lagged with how long it took to fully tell the story. It took all the way um, until a takeover, so where Seth actually invaded takeover and called Triple H out. And Triple H came out, and it took that long for them to really get with the story because Triple H, after he turned on Seth, you didn't even see Triple H for like a long time. You didn't even see him for the rest of the year. So it kind of had you thinking like, what else is going to happen. But I hope in this case, this is not the case. These are two part timers we're talking about. Someone who's a movie star who's just happened to come back. Some people say he only came back to promote his movie or whatever he's doing, and it's just quite interesting. Like, it wasn't mentioned in this program, but the story here is that Batista. This is why he said, you kept bragging about it. You kept bragging about this for the last 2 years. You've been bragging about this, is what he was saying when he was on Raw. And I'm thinking the only thing he could be talking about or suggesting is the fact that Batista could be bragging about the fact that Triple H has never beaten him, which is what he said on SmackDown 1000, is that Triple H has done everything in this business except beat me. And I think the whole concept of this is the fact that Triple H has never beaten Batista. From my knowledge, from WrestleMania 21 to Backlash to Vengeance, three straight pay-per-views, Batista won. Each time they had one-on-one matches. We're not talking about tag matches. We're not talking about triple threat matches. One-on-one matches. Batista has always won. And it's kind of similar to, the whole Triple H and Undertaker thing of how he had only beaten the Undertaker at one time, which was like way back in 2002 or something like that. So when he beat Undertaker at Saudi Arabia, no, that wasn't so. It was Marlboro, Australia. When he beat him at Super Showdown, that was the first time he had beaten Taker in like a long time, and that was like supposed to be their last match when they had that. That was supposed to be their final time facing each other. But of course, they had a tag match at Crown Jewel, so that technically wasn't their last time facing each other. That was just their last one-on-one time facing each other. But that was supposed to be their final time facing each other. Really, if you want to be technical, their last time facing each other should have been at the end of the era match at WrestleMania 28 in 2012, but they just had to continue it for some odd reason last year when it should have ended at the end of the air match in 2012 because that was one of the best matches and it was the match of the year of 2012. So, you know, off topic, but the bottom line is that, the story here is that he's never beaten Batista. And I think that story is going to continue because he said he kept bragging about it. The only thing I could think he was bragging about is that fact. And like, you know, the fact he's just screaming and urging for Triple H's attention. It just makes you want to see more of what's gonna happen next week on Raw when Batista actually comes face to face with Triple H. If he's even gonna bring up the stuff he said, or if it's gonna be a thing where they have Batista does do the classic heelish thing where he comes in there, but he ends up walking away and doesn't really say anything, like has no explanation. So it's really interesting to see how they're going to play this out. I just find it interesting how, Triple H, when it comes to, for the most part, when it comes to his most recent rivals matches he'll have at WrestleMania, he's done some really excellent creative um, booking with his matches and, the build-ups. He's done really good booking towards that for himself, of course, which is why I said, takes a man who, for a man who runs a company at NXT, which is only a 1 hour show, and to then still insert yourself into matches at WrestleMania, it shows how dedicated you are. I still do think he needs to step back from that, but the fact that he's doing it and he's staying in good shape and he manages to put himself in a match every year, I mean, I gotta give prompts to him. I mean, I think in 1999 he said, no one knows his business more than me, sleep, breathe, or whatever this business. This is something he said when he was like going solo from DX. And he's proven it. Like, ever since he changed what Vince's version of NXT was, which was just like a reality series, to an actual developmental, which is what FCW was before it even became NXT. It really is really evolved, and the fact that he's putting himself in his thing with Batista is just really interesting. And has a lot of story and history behind it because again, the story here is that Triple H has never beaten Batista. Because after they had their feud in 2005, then eventually Batista went to SmackDown. Triple H stayed on Raw. And Batista was actually on SmackDown for a long time um, before he went back to Raw. He didn't go back to Raw till like 2008, I believe. Yeah. He was on SmackDown for like a good almost 3 years when he got drafted to SmackDown, got drafted back to SmackDown. Now they did reunite Evolution with the Exception Ready Ordinance at the end of 2007, but for the most part he was on SmackDown. So they never had any matches after that really. So one on one wise, so um he's never beaten him, and if he did beat him, it was probably a house show that we never seen, or that the only people who saw was the ones who was actually there who recorded it. So yeah, you have that. Triple H calls out Batista face to face. That was interesting. Again, I think the only interesting things about tonight was just like the storytelling for these things. Like the matches themselves were not uh, interesting because it's just the same things that we've seen week after week. I really wish they would change that because with it being so close to WrestleMania season, you would think that they would tune up the matches, but they're literally still. This is just kind of showing you how much Vince cares about other superstars on the roster. Like that, it's so much of a huge lack of star power that they're literally rebooking the same matchups over and over again just to kill some time because he doesn't care that much about everyone else in the roster except for these main big stories that's going on right now. If it's not Ronda, Becky, or Charlotte, if it's not dealing with the Shield or Seth or something like that, if it's not dealing with the main people that they show week after week, then they just have proven that they really don't care much about the rest of the roster because um, we're seeing the same stuff. Even with the Aleister Black and Ricochet match with Rival, we've seen that already. And I knew that they weren't going to win the titles because it would have been too soon. So Chad Gable and Bobby Roode interferes, kind of made it seem like they were turning heel by doing that. To just interfere because of the fact that they're upset that they don't that automatic rematch clause, quote unquote, don't count. But cough cough, Usos are facing Shane McMahon Shane McMahon and the Miz in a rematch for the SmackDown Tag Team titles, but so-called rematch clause are no longer intact. They really only mean that for people they don't want to give rematches to, but it technically kind of is still intact. But anyway, so you had that happen. You had the Natalia and Ruby Riott, which we've seen that match like multiple times at this point. Like no one cares. Um, you know, Tamina and Sasha Banks. Tamina won, which they always seem to do that before a pay per view, which basically tells you that they're going to lose at Fastlane. It'd be really strange if Sasha Banks and Bayley didn't retain the titles. Um, unless Vince just want to keep this thing where every time Sasha wins a belt, she never can retain it. Like I don't know what his problem with her with that whole thing is, but I don't see them dropping the belt. They don't have a reason to. So most of it was just filler, 6-man tag match, same stuff we've seen over and over again. I don't know why Baron Corbin, Drew, and Bobby. I don't even know why they're a fraction. Just the same things that we've seen over and over again. So there's not really much to say about it. It's really just the stories behind these things that really uh, attract them most. And then you had the end of the night where Ronda Rousey turned heel. You kind of knew this was gonna happen because the Twitter beef that Ronda and Becky were having. Now, of course, the WWE were not happy with their Twitter beef they had because it seemed too real, and some people even speculated that this is more than just actual work. They actually think this is a shoot because she put, Becky put her husband in there, and then Ronda actually put Becky's real name into the tweet. Like, I don't care what the script says, I'm gonna like beat the shit out of you, basically, because of the fact that he said, I'm trying to help you out, like dumbass. I'm trying to help you out to get you to get unsuspended, so that way we can have this tag team match. We can have this match at WrestleMania, and Becky, said something back, um, and it just got intensive from there. So I kind of knew that based off their heated conversation on Twitter that they had them have. I kind of knew that this was going to lead to just Ronda ripping off. I mean, because and then she mentioned how the fans, booed her in her own hometown. I mean, the thing is that because she said, I'm sick of this Becky stuff. I'm sick of this woo woo from Charlotte, and I'm not gonna be no longer a nice bitch anymore. I mean, I think this is just all frustration. I mean, can you blame her? I mean, every promo that she's tried to cut, especially when she told Becky, "I'll own you at WrestleMania." This is like when Becky was officially going to face Ronda after she won the Rumble. The crowd booed her, and that's what she was referring to. They booed her like throughout her whole sentence. Like, people say she cringes when she speaks on the mic, which I do kind of question. How is it she's like that? Maybe because it's live. Because like I'm just thinking like to be that way on Raw, but then like when you're on movies, when Raw basically is a form of acting, you're on movies and it's like you're not like that. It's just kind of strange. It's like how in the world did you manage to do movies? But anyway, um, you could just kind of tell like you can see the tension, and obviously what she did was a hellish move. Um, grabbing, attacking. First, she kicked Charlotte out of the ring. Then she instantly started attacking Becky. Charlotte was going to go back in the ring, but she was hesitant. It was like, nah, why should I go back in the ring when this is about to be my opponent at Fastlane? Because they were going to have a non-contractual agreement where, they're not held responsible for if Becky gets more injured. It was just going to be Charlotte versus Becky for the Raw Women's Championship, for the vacant Raw Women's Championship, all because of what Ronda did last week on Raw. But Ronda came out and she wasn't going to have it, and even after Stephanie gave her a title, when she demanded to get her title back and said, "Give me my title," she still wasn't having it, and still went off and still attacked Becky, all because of the heat and tension they had on Twitter, and just the boiling of frustration. So it really got me thinking, like, to see Fastlane for sure of how that's gonna turn out this Sunday. I'm really interested to see how it's gonna turn out because you can just see the anger on it. She looks very intense. This is probably Ronda, in my opinion, is at her best when she's a heel, because when she's a face, and this is something a lot of baby faces do, just too much smiling, too much stuff with the crowd. But when she's a heel, it's more about kicking ass. And in this case, she grabbed Becky's arm and put her and looked as if she was trying to break her arm, just constantly kept putting her in her submission hold, over and over and over again. And like I said, Charlotte looked like she was gonna go in the ring, but Charlotte was like, "Why? Why should I go in the ring? Like, just let her be vulnerable. Let her be vulnerable, so that way at Fastlane I can just tear her apart and break the broken pieces so that she can't even get added to the match." But I think it's pretty safe to say that Becky's gonna win this match. I don't know how, but she's gonna win. I don't see it being a reason of Charlotte winning to not have Becky included. It would defeat the whole purpose of this whole thing if Becky didn't win. So either Becky's going to win clean, or it's going to be some type of um, double disqualification or double counter or just something crazy that's going to happen that's going to still get Becky added into the match. But I definitely know for sure that Becky's getting added. It's just no way that she won't be involved in this match. So, there you go with that. Crazy ending to Raw. Um, I'm not gonna say it was at the level of the ending of Raw last week when Batista came back, but it was still a decent ending of the show to really see Ronda kick ass, to see how heelish she can actually be. Um, and like at that rate, she don't got to worry about the crowd. I think she's more comfortable when she's at this state as it pertains to just coming out and hugging people and smiling. Like that's just not Ronda. Like she's more comfortable at this rate, and it legitimately looked like she was trying to break Becky's arm. So I don't know, man. It was crazy. Raw was crazy tonight. I know it's 12 Sunday, but Raw was crazy. So I'm gonna end off this video. Hope you guys check this video out. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Uh, I know I'm not doing anything fancy or got any good software like I once had, but always stay in there, stay hooked up on what I do. Um, as you can see, even though I still have school, I'm still trying to upload a little more frequently, especially by being Fastlane season, WrestleMania season. So hope you guys enjoy this. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys another day. So.